Welcome to the December 7th, 2025 Massachusetts Pirate News, a pirate news that shall not live in infamy. Let's hope. So today it's Steve and I, and we're just going to quickly go through a couple of stories. But first, some info about us. On December 9th, the Cambridge Public Safety Committee from noon to 2 p.m. will be discussing whether they want to back out of their plan to deploy over 12, at least 12 flock automated license plate recognition cameras around Cambridge, which we've reported on previously at masspirates.org. So I would say certainly if you live in Cambridge, please attend that meeting and tell them you don't want said cameras, seeing as, Flock shares this stuff with ICE, and once there's no way to compartmentalize the data and say, oh, this is only Cambridge, once it's there, it's available for any state, any municipality in BRIC, any agency, from state to federal, as well as any state. So literally, if there was a state that had attempted to ban getting an abortion, they could look up in Flock and check the license plate and say, was this person seen in Massachusetts in this area of a clinic where someone could get, a family planning clinic where someone could get an abortion. So we don't want that to happen. So by all means, please attend this, especially if you live in Cambridge, and tell them no. Additionally, we are going to elect a new pirate council, and the election schedule is, as you see before you. Nominations and candidate statements are due by the end of January. Ballots will go out in roughly the 13th of February, and then we'll close the election on the 27th of February. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have more hands helping us build out the party. But in other news, some of you may know we have this thing called Citizens Initiatives, and that allows groups of interested citizens to gather over 70,000 signatures in order to put an initiative on the ballot. One of those that we're going to discuss is the auditor, DeZoglio. She's trying to make sure the State House is under the public records law, which we're pretty much I think we're the only state, or certainly one of a tiny handful of states, where the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary are not under the public records law. And so she wants to change that. That is something that is just music to our ears. So that's going to, they got to figure out whether the ballot initiative has enough signatures, but if it does, then the legislature could take it up, or if it doesn't, they could get an additional, I think Steve's is 12,000 signatures or so.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then once they do that, they're on the ballot. Thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the ballot petition thing is interesting. I think there were a total of 26 petitions requested or filed this year, and that was before the signature gathering starts. So the basic process is that you have a period of a couple of weeks to go out and get 75,000 signatures. And that's 75,000 as certified by individual city and town clerks. And after that, the legislature can either take your issue up and enact it, or you go out in the spring and gather another 12,000 signatures, and it goes to the voters. It's a big organizing effort. These are getting something actually on the ballot is a big deal. Not only do you have a requirement for so many signatures, but there's also a geographic distribution requirement. I believe you have to collect signatures from every county, and there's a maximum to how many that you can get in a particular county. But I think it looks like we might have up to as many as 12 ballot questions coming up next November. But we're going to wait for the Secretary of Commonwealth to give us the final word, hopefully sometime this month. DeZoglio's petition, it would basically, it would write the legislature and the governor's office it would include them in what are considered public records. There would be some exemptions, like constituents writing to their legislature asking for constituent services, and maybe draft ideas about legislation before it was actually finalized and available to the rest of the House. But this would be, I think, a beneficial measure of transparency for the Commonwealth. So yeah, this will be one to watch in the coming months.
Thanks, Steve. So you worked on a particular ballot initiative. Do you want to give us a rundown of that and whether they got the requisite number of signatures?
So yes, I worked on the legalized starter home petition. So one of the things that are you commonly see in outside around the urban core of Boston are what are pejoratively referred to as McMansions, big expensive houses on big lots. And one of the reasons we have those is because municipality, the towns around the urban core can say, well, if you want to build a house, you need a whole acre to do it, something like the size of a football field. And that makes land expensive. And in order to sort of deal with the high cost of land, you end up what builders have to do is they build expensive large houses. So the idea behind starter homes is that where a community has water and sewer service, so you've got the infrastructure to support people, someone would be able to build a one-family house on a 5,000 square foot lot. For comparison, an acre is like 40,000. So this, my understanding is that it has. We have not gotten the final stamp of approval from the Secretary of the Commonwealth, but the campaign believes it has turned in 84,000 valid signatures. So I think in that area we're looking good.
Good to hear it. Certainly more housing would be a good thing. I was just thinking as you were saying that, I remember when I look at the assessed value of my house and how much of it is simply the land and not the structure. And so, I'm thinking of these houses where we could get, I know it strikes me that we could get even better tax revenue if you had more structures on the land than just the land. But they don't necessarily want that.
This is absolutely true. A lot of the sprawlier suburbs are actually, I'll use the phrase structural debt because it's a pun that's somewhat intended. But basically, when in terms of infrastructure maintenance, you have a mile of roadway, a mile of water, sewer lines, sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. This is stuff that you, the municipality, are on the hook for maintaining forever. And if you have like 200 feet of infrastructure serving an apartment building that generates that's with an assessed value of $20 million versus two homes with an assessed value of $2 million, you getting more dollars per acre is really important for financial viability. So you're absolutely right. Building, using land more efficiently, not sprawling, building compact, walkable communities. Yeah, this is all good for municipal tax revenue.
And so, one of the other things you mentioned when we before we started was about a rent control ballot initiative. Can you give us a quick summary of that?
Sure. So the rent control ballot initiative, I have been amazed at the amount of energy behind this. And, for good reason. um, Massachusetts is a really expensive place to live. We've not been building enough homes for roughly 20 or 30 years. And, when you have this is where economics comes in, but you have cutthroat competition for the apartment that's available, the house that goes on the market. You get bidding wars. So this is one of the things that drives prices up. um, the rent control ballot petition, which turned in, I think, over 124,000 signatures. This people are this this question has struck a chord with people. But basically, it would limit rent increases to the consumer price index, inflation, or 5% within a given year, whichever is less. And there's a small set of exemptions, like an owner-occupied building with 4 dwellings or fewer, or situations where the rent is set by, some other statutory thing, like people living at a housing in public housing, for example. But yeah, I think this petition has they are most certainly going to get qualified. The real estate industry has, I read this morning that they're planning a $30 million spend to fight this. The article where I read this was in a publication called Banker and Tradesman, which is essentially a real estate publication. And the guy writing it was, well, like, honestly, 30 million isn't going to be enough, because even with the downsides of, there are there are a number of downsides to rent control, but it's really hard to tell someone, just, wait, have patience and wait 20 or 30 years and this will sort itself out. So I think um, this is going to be a food fight over the next couple of months, but ultimately I think it's got a pretty good shot at passing. I guess polling for it is at around 60% right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll pull out all the stops. I'm, above 60% going in still seems like with the amount of money, they could pull it down to 49%, and that's really all they need in order to stop it. Um,
The rent is too damn low is not going to resonate in this environment. It just ain't going to work. And if you, the housing policy in the U.S. is always, there have always been people who've been benefited from it and people who have not. And right now, if you own, you benefit big time because of, in terms of like personal wealth, just because property has become so valuable over the last, couple of decades. But if you're renting, yeah, it sucks. It sucks because every year you're just paying more to keep the same thing that you always had. Um, and yeah, I think there are people who are voting with their feet and moving out of the Commonwealth. Um, and yeah, it's you. I do think they're people are unhappy and about this, and for very good reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we'll see. It certainly would be uh, my feeling, although I don't have any, unfortunately, hard data on this, is there's still a sizable set of properties that are merely investment properties and they don't rent them out. It'd be good to
I
find that out. I personally would love to see oh, no one occupies this? Well, your taxes go up. But that's me.
Yeah, I mean, as someone I follow real estate transactions in Arlington fairly closely. I live in Arlington, and so yeah, so that is interesting to me. Most of them, the stuff that we sell ends up being owner occupied, or maybe it gets sold to a builder who rehabs a place and sells it. But I don't see where you have lots of institutional investors buying things like single family homes, or it's usually been in areas where they're distressed, and you end up, that have had high foreclosure rates. And in Massachusetts, we really don't have high foreclosure rates.
Interesting. Didn't know that. Thanks, Steve.
Now,
So
I was going to say, if
yeah, go for it.
anything, the investors who are buying now are buying apartment buildings. And they see Massachusetts as a good bet for three reasons. One is high wages. Number two is a very low vacancy rate. And number three is they believe that, in Massachusetts, there's limited ability to add more housing units. So they're basically saying that, yeah, this shit is scarce and it's a good bet, and we can get top dollar rent, and there's a good chance we could have solid year over year increases. So, this is what the investors are saying. So take that as you will.
Thanks, Steve. So one of the things we keep track of is all the shenanigans, or as much of the shenanigans as we see from the Trump administration. And one of the things that came by recently from WGBH is, people go, they've been here a while, they have Greek cards, they fulfill all the requirements, and they decide they want to become citizens. And, I know that's happened in my extended family, where, my wife's family came over from Northern Ireland, and, over time, uh, they were able to become citizens, and that's a great thing. But here recently, there was going to be a citizenship ceremony for people who had crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's and did everything right and were here legally. Um, and they showed up to go and join our country and be a citizen, and they were told, no, you come from Haiti or Sudan or some other set of countries, 19 in all, that the Trump administration doesn't like. So the Trump administration denied them their right to become a citizen. I'm sure this will go to the courts. Who knows? Well, the lower courts, I'm sure, will say, no, this is bullshit. But, I am sure that when it comes to the Supreme Court, things will be sadly far murkier. Um, and it's just like, it's clear the Trump administration doesn't want the wrong people, by which they mean white people not from South Africa, and maybe right wing people from Europe or something like that. Anywhere else seems verboten. So um, this is not what this country was founded on. Um, you know, we have had over a period times where we've let in a large number of people, and times when we've kind of unfortunately let in fewer people. Um, but people want to be here, and those people who come here end up being a net benefit to our country. But even then, if they're people fleeing war, some of which we are involved in or have even facilitated, by all means, if they want to come here and help build this country, we should let them in, is my thought. What do you think, Steve?
By the time someone has, gone through all the vetting and passed all the tests and et cetera, which, it's never done it personally. My understanding, it's a very long and involved process. Um, you know, let them in. They've done the work. And if you were to say that, well, um, we're denying you on a specific set of criteria because, like say you held up a liquor store or something. The whole country of origin stuff. It's there is so much shenanigans going on, so much shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean they just want white nationalists to join and everyone else. Well, but that's not the country pirates want. Pirates want anyone here who's going to help build our country. So, uh, with that, we are at time. Thank you very much for listening to us. If you would like to help, by all means, contact us at info@masspirates.org, and we would love help in producing this, coming up with ideas to bring to the attention of fellow pirates. Thank you, Steve, for joining me at this recording, and please, as always, like, share, subscribe. Um, and all the all the other fun stuff so that we can increase the number of people who are seeing these little news briefs. So take care. We have another one in 2 weeks, so that'll be the 21st, just before the holidays. And next Sunday will be our member meeting. So with that, adios, au revoir, arrivederci tu, auf Wiedersehen.